Good evening. Welcome to the Farming Podcast brought to you by Private Property. My name is Mbali Nwoko once again, and I'm your host for the Farming Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Today's guest, listen, I always get excited when we have a guest, but today's guest is Mom Joye, and I've been watching her journey or following her journey ever since she started Umgibe Organics, or ever since I started knowing about Umgibe Organics. And she posts a number of things about her operations and the impact that she has made on her community, most importantly on LinkedIn, and I'm an avid follower of her work. I think she's doing phenomenal things on the ground, and what better way to have her in this International Women's Month, where I get to have onto the podcast and obviously learn about her journey, her experiences, the impact that she's doing on her community, and all the phenomenal work that she's doing on the ground in her province, and I suppose in her extended work. So today we're joined by Mom Joye, as I call her, and she'd like to be preferred to be called Mom Joye. And she is the founder of Umgibe Organics. But before we get into that, I just want to say that we're going to be talking about everything farming, organic farming, understanding the different systems that she uses, which is slightly different from the conventional farming. So any of you that are watching tonight and have thought, how do I get irrigation systems? Do I plant on the ground? Do I plant in bags? What are the different farming methods that I could use to grow my crops? I definitely think that tonight's podcast is for you, based on the way Mom Joye farms, and just to understand how you could start a business or start a farming business from humble beginnings. And I definitely think you'll learn some valuable key points from Mom Joye's story tonight. So please, as I say in every show, like, comment, share, but most importantly, would like to engage with you. Ask the question to the guest, and we could obviously ask the guest, and she could give us insights and feedback based on your question. But this podcast is primarily to help you, get your farming education going, get your farm started, get those green fingers working. But without further ado, I just want to introduce the guest today. And Mom Joye, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me today.
It's a pleasure. I've always wanted to have you on the podcast because I just think you are a phenomenal woman in capital letters. And I'm not just saying that to hype you up. I'm not saying that to hype you up, but yeah, ngesizulu sisho ukuthi umsebenzi wakho muhle and yeah, I've just been an avid fan, and I just can't believe that I have you on our podcast today. But for those that don't know you and are probably thinking, hey, today Mbali's a bit crazy, she's going all mad about this woman. Tell us about who Mom Joye is and how you became the founder of Umgibe Organics.
It's a bit of I don't know what to call, but a painful space. 2014, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. So I ended up without enough money to put food on the table for my kids. And as a mother, I had to try and find different ways of actually achieving that. And I remembered that when I grew up, my father and my mother were farmers. I mean, they really farmed a lot. I hated farming because it was difficult work, and we seemed to be doing that all the time, and it was not easy. So I ended up remembering that. I said, let me just grow a few things in my backyard so that I could be able to feed my kids. And before I knew it, I had vegetables, and I was happy. I knew that, I was just about to do what I needed to do. One day I came out, all the food was gone. The chickens had eaten everything on site, and I cried. I mean, I literally cried, because that was my last hope between me and the hunger. And the stomach is a difficult thing. It doesn't give credit. So just because I was sick, just because I had no money, it didn't say, no, I'll see you another day. I still had to feed the kids. I still had to feed myself so that I could take my medication and do everything that I needed to do. So I had to think fast. How do I grow my vegetables without the chickens eating them? And that is when Umkibe was born. Umkibe in Zulu was our wardrobe. You hanged your sleeping mats, you hanged your blankets and everything so that the termites could not eat them. So my termites in this case was the chickens. So I had to find a way of growing my plants up so that the chickens could not reach them. And I then took a rope, hung the plastic bags, and I put my seedlings there. And it sagged. So I had to go back to the drawing board. How do I keep this steady? How do I get this to be what I want it to be? And I then thought about nails, took the plastic bags, took the nails and put them on these planks, between these planks, and I put my seedlings, the compost and everything, and I grew my vegetables. Before long, I had vegetables, more vegetables than I ever needed. And I started selling to my neighbors, and I started, before long, I was talking to somebody, and they said, you know, your spinach is so clean. If you could perhaps package it nicely, and suckers would buy it because it's so clean. It's not, doesn't even have soil. It's not on the ground. So I did that. I'm glad to say that I was able to have 13,500 out of the vegetables that I had grown in my system. And for me, it was like 13.5 million, because I started with 400 between me and my poverty. So what I'm trying to say is that you don't have to wait until you have a lot of money before you start. You just have to start where you are, where you can, whatever the capacity that you have, you can do it. And before long, somebody was asking me, how much is your system? I didn't know I had a system, but I had a growing system, and somebody wanted to buy it. And I undercharged at first, but before long I caught on, and I was helped by one of the churches to actually patent the system. And that's how my story started. It started with hunger in my stomach. It started with me solving a solution that I was, a problem that I was facing with my family. And I knew that I couldn't go outside and beg. So I had to do something, because when you find out that you have a problem, at the back of your mind, you have a solution. So I used that solution. That is how I started.
Jeez, Mom Joye. I don't know what to say right now, you know, because you've in just the past 3 minutes or so, or 5 minutes, you've mentioned so many critical aspects that many people just don't understand about farming, really, or just don't get it. Is to say, as much as you might have a dream and a passion, it's really about getting started, and there's so many people who just want to start,
Yes.
but are afraid of failure. And I think the inevitable here is that you will fail, and what I want to get to is that you saying you had cancer, you had 400 Rand, you had this system that you tried, it failed. What went through your mind to pick yourself up again to say, let me continue with the system, it can work, but let me think of something different, just besides the empty stomach? Because I think that's an important aspect we need to really put emphasis on, is that farming is also a very much of a mental activity, because every farmer goes through disaster, whether it's climate change, excessive rain, drought, farmers lose crop, farmers lose cattle, diseases, just moving cattle from one area to the next area. You find that your whole livestock has died because of the different climatic conditions. But if you could just take us through that thought process as to how did you pick yourself up after having lost from the first trial, and knowing that, you started with barely nothing, how did you get up and try and make the system work again?
At the back of my mind, I kept on hearing my father's voice saying that abafunakali okamsangtele. In this life, you must never be a kamsangtele, a person that enjoys to be spoon-fed at all times. And I realized that I couldn't be that. I had no alternative but to try and do something for myself, because my father told me that in order for someone to assist you, you yourself need to know what you want done for that person to be able to assist you. So how do you go outside and say, I don't have food, but you are not doing anything to change the situation that we are in? If you want people to start helping you, first do something and then ask for help. You do not help somebody that is sitting down. You help somebody that was trying to stand up and maybe faltered and started falling backwards. Then you start helping them. And those words kept on coming back. And I said, I'm a very spiritual person. I'm a Christian, and I believe in God's intervention. I kept on saying that, give me the wisdom to do this. And I don't know how I made Umkibe, but that was only the wisdom that would have come from God. I don't know. So yeah, that is all that pushed.
Right. And so where did you start having the system? Did you do it in your backyard, or did you have to find communal land where you could put up the system? And I know your system is planting in bags, specifically plastic bags, grocery shopping bags. I don't know if you've elevated it or not. So where did you start this? How many bags did you start with? Because essentially you're also you're in the recycling business, if we look at it carefully, you're recycling, but also contributing towards food security. So how big of a land did you start with? What was the first few crops that you trialed with, and how, and maybe who were your first customers then?
I started in my backyard, and actually it was one of the smallest spaces, but I did 3 steps. to make sure that the tables, there were 3 tables, but like steps, and using plastic bags. Discarded plastic bags is what started me going. And before long, I was using that to help others to also grow, selling the systems, and the revenue streams started, increasing. And today, I'm glad to say that I'm no longer using the plastic bags. We've got a material that is made out of recycled PET. Mm-hmm. And it lasts longer, but it is also biodegradable. After some time, it's biodegradable. So we have what's called elevated from that. And what is special about these bags that we are doing now, not only are we reducing the PET plastic bottles, your Sprite and Coke and whatever that are thrown all over, but we are also helping women in the community by getting them to sew those bags for us, and then we buy them back from them, and we continue. So it has started from plastic bags to these bags to an income generating program for local women. 6 women are doing that, and we order each and every time when we have orders for the systems, we are actually buying from them. And like currently, we've got a partnership with Islamic Relief. They are building 75 growing systems for the communities that they are sponsoring. And these women are getting to have to sew those bags, and we are getting to help the community. So it is an amazing feeling when you see the work that is being done, and the community is starting to stand up for themselves and feed themselves.
Wow. What type of vegetables are able to grow from your food system?
You can grow almost anything except butternut and pumpkins because they are quite heavy. But you can grow cabbage, you can grow spinach, you name it. All these what you call vegetables like lettuce and then everything. You can do that. The only thing that you cannot grow are the bigger ones or the maize and stuff. Yeah.
Yes. And what type of growing medium are you using? Is it cocoa peat? Is it sawdust? Is it normal soil?
No, we use soil, normal soil, but it has to be what calls tested, that it doesn't have any chemicals. It hasn't been used what called on your conventional farming methods. We only use what we call compost. We actually encourage people to make their own compost heaps so that it could be easy, because organic farming is not a new thing. It's something that was used before in the early ages. When I was growing up, there was systems that were in place. For example, there was a time when the harvest has been done, and the neighbors' cattle and all the cattle in the area would go to the fields. They will eat from there, and while they are eating, they are dropping what you call ubulongwe, and then it becomes compost. But you must remember that the older generation were not scientists, but they were natural scientists, because they knew the times, the months, the seasons, and they would say, we won't start farming until there is the kind of rain that was called imbosi samahlanga, which means the rain that actually compost, turn the what called the maize into compost. Yes. And then that is when they would start farming. And all that was not, there was no tractors to do that. There was no what called producing compost. It was naturally done by just allowing the cattle to be in there. So that is how we do it now. We get the soil, we put the soil, and with the soil we mix it with the compost, and the cattle that the compost we are getting from are grass-fed. So it means the compost has got all the nutrients that one needs to be able to put back into the soil. So that is how we work. We also use the permaculture method when we are doing stuff on the ground, whereby we intercrop things and we position in a certain way so that we can be able, they can be able to complement one another. And we do not disturb the ecosystem that we find, because when you get into this place that you clear and you want to plant your crops, usually there's grass, there's all sorts of fauna there, and you let the insects continue to actually feed them. You don't chase them away, but sometimes, most of the time, we want to chase everything away, and we are forgetting that by so doing, we are saying to the insects, come and eat what I'm planting because I've taken everything away from you. And that is how we do. When we do a maize, we do open pollinated variety. We do not use hybrid, we don't use what you call GMO, all those things. The whole value chain starts from us to the finish.
Wow. Yeah. So I like the fact that you've really taken organic farming into a very simple level. Because typically when people think farming, they think that I must own land, I must have hectares and hectares of land to produce my food. And you've come up with this simple system that you started in your backyard, and now you've trademarked it. So I want to know, for any of our audience listening, that is like, geez, I'm interested to see Mom Jay's system, and obviously they'll follow you on social media. We'll put your links there. But for those that are interested and are thinking, I'd like to buy this system, but can it work for me, the individual person that just wants to grow their own food in their backyard? Or does the system primarily speak to new farmer entrants who want to start farming, but maybe don't have access to land? But this system would be an entry level point in the farming industry for them to just get going and growing their own fruits or vegetables. And then from there, they could go on to, I suppose, whatever their heart's desires. Or can it speak to aspirant farmers or just people that just want to grow food in their own backyards for their own individual household consumption?
It works in both ways, because I started just to feed myself, but the system is designed so that it produces a lot of vegetables. In a 3-meter structure, you can actually plant about 130 different crops, or if it's spinach, it could be that, but you can actually have the whole garden in a 3-meter structure. So you can do that for feeding yourself. But if you are planting 130 cabbages, you're not going to eat them by yourself. You're going to end up selling them. So
Yeah.
that is how it is designed. But when you want to actually also start maybe a herb farm, and you don't have that much of a space, it is a very good what you call product for you to use. And what is good about it is that it doesn't matter whether you've got cement or even if the soil has been contaminated, the one that you are going to put the structure on, you can actually import the soil from somewhere else, put it in the bags and grow your vegetables like there is nothing, because it has got nothing to do with the soil that is on the ground. It's got to do with each soil that is in the bag.
Got it. Let's talk about impact, Ma'am Jay. I saw one of a video. I can't remember where, but I'm not sure if it was a LinkedIn profile with where you've partnered with a telecoms company, and they were just sharing some good stories and positive stories from the impact that Umgibe Farming Organics has had in its community. And there were some women that were being profiled. I think I actually saw it on Food from Mzansi, if I'm not correct. And you had a partner with a telecoms company, yeah?
Yes.
And we actually had Food from Mzansi previously onto the show, but it profiled some women in, I think, in the KZN region who are part of your community group or the group of Umgibe Farming, and how you've gone now to train them, and they're growing their own food systems, and they're starting to, I think, do their own businesses by selling their own vegetables, etc. How did you get to expand Umgibe Farming Organics to reach to more women like yourselves in the community? Some maybe that are employed, some of them unemployed, some of them even who have lost hope and said, you know what, I'll never be employed. I can't feed my children. I'm going to survive on a grant. How did you get to that level and roping other women in your community, and most importantly, inspiring them to start growing their own food? Because emakaya, everybody grows their own food, whether it's beans, whether it's maize. But for them, how were you able to get them to get the buy-in in the Umgibe Farming Organics food system? And to just join and be part of community and the system, to also just start selling their own produce and making a bit of income?
I would say that when people see what you are doing and see you changing right in front of them, some of them want to know how they can also be able to do so. And I guess that is the case here. And then I started having cooperatives coming and say, we would like to use the system, we would like to buy the system. But what I did was not to actually push the system to people, because some people have got land. So if you've got land and your land has been just lying like that, I also encouraged them to grow food in their own land. And before long, I found myself with more than 51 cooperatives. And today, as I'm speaking, I work with 159 cooperatives. And it has gotten to a stage whereby we've grown, and we are an accredited training center, and we've got our own training center, experiential training center, where you can come and learn how to farm. By the time you leave, you can actually be able to go and start your own farm. And through that, 159 cooperatives is almost women, almost close to 2,000. So if they've got land, we then say, can you be able to grow this? We'll come to you. You are the retailer or you are somebody, and we'll say, would you like us to grow green pepper for you or butternut for you, and you'll say yes, but I don't like to work with small scale farmers because they're not consistent. And we'll say, no, we can be able to do that because farmer number so and so has got 3 hectares and the other one has got 1 hectare, and combining those, we are able to actually supply. And this went on for the past few years, but now we have acquired 100 hectare land whereby we are farming with different farmers, but it has made it easier for us logistically to be able to grow things in the same place and be able, and each and every person is their own business, but we are putting together these commodities so that we can be able to sell, and we don't put anything on the ground unless we know where it's going. And that is the key, because half the time the farmers are discouraged because they grow things and then they don't know where to take them. So my advice is to not grow anything unless you know where you're going to sell it. And with us having this network of farmers, we are able to supply all year round. And that is exactly how it ended up being like that. But Umkibe is about stopping hunger. Umkibe is about stopping poverty. And Umkibe is lazy proof. And Umkibe is not about handing out, it's about hands up. If you say, my hand is up, I want to work, I want to do that, we are there for you. But we don't want people that are going to sit down and expect to be given. That is what we don't, because for me, it started like that. So when you tell me your story that you are so comfortable about telling about being a victim, I then jump into saying that I was in that situation, but this is what I've done. Would you like to do this too? And if you want to do it, you will come. But if you were just a beggar as usual, you will run away.
Wow. We've got a comment from Chule saying, Ma, you are such an inspiration. And I echo those words because indeed you are. And geez, I didn't know that now it's gone to such an enterprise where you've reached plus minus 2,000 women with over 100 cooperatives. So do you see how your idea has now helped so many other women who maybe had lost hope, in their own individual journeys. But I suppose at the end of the day, you're just contributing towards food security, you're farming, and this is a true life experience or life example to say, this is how farming can take you out of poverty, or growing your own food can take you out of poverty. And I like the fact that you've also roped in other women to start sowing the seeds, sowing the bags, those that are good with sewing, and just starting to make their own bags, and you're buying from them. So you are essentially not only recycling, but contributing to food security, also creating jobs, also training, but you are in essence growing your own ecosystem and growing a community that can uplift itself. And it's like it's a whole ecosystem that is really constantly supporting each other. We have another quote, a comment here from Usmangaliso Zondi saying, Mama Joye's story is so inspirational. Thank you, Private Property and Nonhlanhla. The impact is immeasurable. Keep up the good work. So, but I think the spotlight is on you, Mam Jay. I want to know, with such milestones reached till date, what is next for Umgibe Farming Organics and Training Institute? Are you looking to train more people? Are there any young people in the community? Because, they say there's no young people in farming. Are there maybe opportunities in the urban areas? Because again, in the cities, people don't have land, so maybe they want to start off with your system. What is next for Umgibe? And if you could give us some insights on that.
We are currently We are currently partnering with SASA, South African Sugar Association. They are sponsoring a youth group that they're sponsoring Umkibe to do something in the community. So we chose youth group. Some of them are working for me, but I wanted them to also grow themselves. So I gave them a piece of land so that they can be able to start making money for themselves. So there are 15 of them, and right now we are in the middle of growing the vegetables, and when they start harvesting, Umkibe is going to buy that and supply the retail stores and the customers that we are working with. And Umkibe is posed now to start an agro-processing hub for this, all the farmers in its network, because we've managed to have a nursery where we are going to have our own seedlings, and then from there the seedlings, it's the market access for the farmers that we have right now, and then over and above that, the school programs that we do, where we train kids, young kids as young as 7 years old, to germinate seeds, and then we buy back those seeds and we leave them with some seeds so that they can be able to grow their own at their home, their own garden. But we also pay them back from germinating those seeds. We call it a seedpreneurs program, because it is actually helping them to become young seed producers at a very young age that are paid to actually do that. Not because they are working for us, but because we are cultivating the future. I believe that helping out your community is not about doing big things. It's about you being like that grain of potassium permanganate in a jar full of water. You just drop it in there and it changes the area where it is. I am that potassium permanganate. You are that potassium permanganate. And when we put all these potassium permanganate granules inside and we stir, the whole world will change. The whole world would understand that it starts with you. It starts with me. I can't wait for other people to help me if I'm not helping myself.
Wow. I can't add anything over and above that. I think you've said a mouthful, and it's definitely hit home for me. Mom Joye, I just want to thank you so much for your time. I wish I could have you for a whole hour, because there's so many things that I'd like to know. And as you're explaining about how Umkibe has transformed and changed and getting more people in a network, I see something, the strategy here, or the main theme that I'm picking up from your work, is that every single value chain or every single angle within your network, you're creating an opportunity for individuals. Like the young children growing seeds, you are essentially teaching them the fundamental stuff of the fundamental basics of entrepreneurship, so that you're bringing into that concept to say, I can do something, develop a product that essentially someone might want to buy. They buy it and they come back. So I just need to keep being consistent in developing this product, and I will always have a customer. So from the young individuals, such as 6 years old, you're teaching them the concept of entrepreneurship, how to make their own money. And for the youth in farming, you're exploring them into farming opportunities and different unconventional ways, inconventional ways to grow your own food and also make it a business from there. And as opposed to the women in the community, you're also showing them different avenues and how to make money within the agricultural value chain, whether it's growing their own seeds, whether it's designing the plastic bags, coming up with their own solutions and patenting it and selling it out, forming part of a cooperative, joining together to supply to a large retailer or a large formalized business that they would not ordinarily get into themselves when they were coming to that business alone. So I just think, like the viewers tonight who have commented, to say inspirational work. I think you're just doing a phenomenal job. And I think your story will live for many, many years amongst many South African hearts and those that watch on our YouTube channel. But I just want to thank you for your time this evening. And I'm looking forward to obviously seeing Umkibe grow and expand to other regions. But yeah, I think for me and the private property team, we just wanted to say thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I also thank Eskom for not having the load shedding.
Yes, thank you, because that would be a disaster, you know. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching this evening. I was speaking to Mom Joye, Nonhlanhla Joye from Umgibe Farming Organics and Training Institute. She's a farmer and I suppose most importantly, an entrepreneur in the agricultural space. If you missed tonight's podcast, please watch it on our private property YouTube channel right after the show, and you could watch the conversation right from the beginning. And you hear how Mom Joye started her business from humble beginnings, literally from humble beginnings, small backyard. She designed the system from her own mind and a thinking, but most importantly was guided from the Umkibe concept, which she obviously explains how she started her farming system, and now she's painted it. And there's so many other people who are using that system as well, and how she's been able to collaborate with other cooperatives, making them form part of her networks as Umkibe, and obviously supplying a larger customer base with whatever produce that comes out. I think this is such an inspirational story. And most importantly, for you that are watching at home who want to go into agriculture, but just don't know how or where to start, she has some very valuable insights and really practical tips in how to start with the minimal resources that you have. But thank you so much for all your comments and your engagement. Continue to like and share these videos, even if they're on our YouTube channel. And I will catch you on Thursday once again with another guest. But I hope you enjoyed tonight's show as much as I have. And I will see you on Thursday. Good night and God bless.